I found an artist. There were a lot of artists on the island that were making wooden ones like this. And this was the only one that he had. So I bought it from him and carried it home. So feel free to come up and see it. All right. You flip the first one on. Where's the little... I must have touched something. I know.
Just if you touch the screen,
that'll come back up.
This will light up.
All right.
So it's right there for you.
All right. When I was 12 years old, a friend of my father's gave me a book on Easter Island, and I fell in love. And I read books all through my life, and the joke in our house was, I'm going to go there before I die. My husband was very, very disabled, and for 35 years I was a caregiver for him. He found my archaeology magazine and realized that there were tours that went to different places with professors. And he signed me up. And it ended up being 8 women and a professor of linguistics. And he was working on the language of the island through his career. So I'm going to give you a little bit of facts. The island is 2,300 miles from Chile, and it is a colony of Chile. The Polynesian people settled it in about the year 800. They arrived in large canoes with people and animals and created a life for themselves. It's known as Rapa Nui. It is a World Heritage Site. When we were coming in from Santiago, Chile, the pilot said, I'm going to fly around here. I want everybody to look out the window. And the island was a triangle, still is. And he said, there's a runway on that island. And it was built by the United States. And it was built by us in case the space shuttle ever needed to land or needed help out in the Pacific Ocean. And the runway went one whole side of that triangle. Easter Island, I said, was a colony of Chile. The natives there that are still there can intermarry with people from Chile, but only the natives of the island can own property. The Chileans cannot come over and buy property. Back in the mid-1600s, 1800s, 1860 to 1864, Peru realized there was an island out there with all these people. And they came out, and let me read numbers. 1,400 islanders were captured. It was about 35% of the population, and were taken back to Peru. And while doing this, slave traders brought disease to the island. By the time some of the people came back from Peru, there were only 111 people left on the island. Today, there are about 5,000 people. Let's see, where do we want to go next? That's done. The statues are all over the place. There are about 900 statues on the island. They are made of the lava and carved around the top of the volcano. Once it blows, there's a caldera, and that's an edge around kind of the insides of the volcano. The people different groups would have their own artists who would go up and carve. And they would carve them out of the edge of the lava, and then they would kind of slide them down the hill and make a great big hole and stand them up in the hole. You'll see pictures of, it looks like all these heads on the side of the mountain. And that's because they were waiting to move those around the island. When the natives originally got there, there were trees all over the island, but they pretty much wiped those out. There's kind of two different thought processes in that. One was that they used all of the trees to build houses and to move the moai from one place to another. Many years later, there was a whole different thought processes because there were rats on the island that they brought with them in the canoes. Well, the rats had to eat stuff, and what they found is that the rats fed on the seeds of trees around, and so there was not a repopulation of the trees. Also, the natives always talked about the statues walking across the island. That's how they got to different places. And nobody could figure it out, and then somebody had this wonderful idea. This is the size of one of them with a man standing in front. But the way they think that they moved them is by taking 3 ropes, and they tied them around their neck, and 2 of the ropes were pulled out here, this side, and 1 was out front. And they found that if the guy out front kind of controlled it and the other 2 just took turns pulling, they could make the statues, this is rounded, kind of go on their tummy and do this across the island. Let's see, what else do we have? Different groups did different things with their statues. There was a small volcano or lava bed of this red lava, and so some of them put heads on it, but they were all over the island. This is this guy, and he sits in I live in 420. If you ever want to come visit him, come visit. These are just pictures of natives that were there. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you? When we got there to the island, there were 30 hotel rooms. There are a lot of people that come and visit the islands, but they come on cruise ships that dock there, and they get to go for one day and then they leave. So staying overnight is not the norm. And it was kind of the old-fashioned type of hotels and motels that we always used to go to. Our group happened, as I mentioned before, happened to have 8 women, which this professor said he'd never been on a group that wasn't couples. And so he said it was totally different in what they asked, and we talked every night after coming back from seeing different parts of the island, and would sit and drink and ask any questions we wanted to. So that was always the fun night. While we were there, and there are others who have been there also, if they want to speak up. While we were there, there was a festival going on all week, and they had competitions, and they would have dancing competitions and singing competitions. I think there was a surfing. The thing we went to back then, the caldera again, back at the volcano, was a lake. It has since dried up, but it was a lake. And Chileans and the Rapa Nui young men got out there ready to run this marathon, and there were 3 parts of it. One is they would canoe across the lake. Then the second part was they ran around the lake. And the third was they ran around the lake again, but they had boards across their shoulders with whole big things of bananas hanging from it. And they had to navigate that around the lake. Okay, do I tell you my naughty part? I kind of went off and sat by myself, and everybody else went down right by where the guys were going to be running. And then I saw the runners who had very little clothing on. So I kind of moved down, and I didn't have my camera that day. That was fun. We went to all sorts of different events with the different festival. What did you encounter when you went to Easter Island? Okay. All right, anybody have any questions?
How big an island is it?
How big?
Compared to something?
I don't know. It's not huge. There are about 900 statues on the island, most of them standing around the edge. The biggest statue, 185 tons. And it's just a spot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
How big is the island? How many square miles?
I don't know. Don't know. Hey, hang on, she's coming back with a microphone. I can hear you.
Just wondered when you went.
2007.
And how did you get there? What was your flight plan?
Flew to Dallas and found a woman who spoke Spanish and met her in the Dallas airport. And then we went down to Santiago, Chile and spent a day. And then we were going to fly out. I imagined this little puddle jumper that was going out to the island. No, we were on it was a jet, and it was 3 hours before we got there. Yeah.
Easter Island is 63.2 miles square.
63.2 miles square.
And just for reference, Minneapolis-St. Paul, the greater Minneapolis-St. Paul is almost 5,000 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
When you add everything up.
The main city in there was 3 blocks long. And they had a little house about this big with a door, and you could go inside, and it was their post office, and you could get your passport stamped. Yeah. Yes?
And you said that cruise ships would come in, so they have a big docking?
They must. There were cruise ships there when we were there. Did you encounter? You flew in. We ran into some people that said that they were going to the Galapagos Islands and someplace else, and they were there just for the day. You don't break the rules at the island. See the platform that these guys are on? That's where the bones of their elders are buried. And you don't step on it. You can't walk up on that at all. You will be fined, and you will not be able to leave the island until you pay the fine.
How do people support themselves? Is it mostly tourism, or what is their support?
I think it's a mixture. There's farmers. They were selling pineapples on the main drag. 2 guys and a card table was their official spot. But the pineapples were round, and they just peel them down and you eat it like a lollipop. But so they do farming, but they do a lot of tourism.
So what is the point of the statues? To guard the bones of their ancestors, or?
To guard their territory. All of the statues face inland. I would have thought that they would face out and protect them from the ocean, but it was protecting their property. Yes?
That little guy that you brought along,
Yes.
you know where it was made.
It was, I don't think I have pictures of the mountain, but yes, it was made there. The artist went up and got a hunk of lava.
It wasn't imported from Japan.
No. No. Because it's even got, if you look at it and can see it, it has carvings on the back. And the hands, do this. And right here is a spot where it fell off a cabinet at my house and broke.
Question, did the statues represent, like, were they idols or were they
Represented their
religious?
elders.
Okay, so they weren't religious, or were they?
I never heard anything about religion.
Okay.
It was a burial process, and you can tell on some of the spots. Wait a minute. You can see in the background that some of them are shorter. Some of the older ones are, they only made them this high. Then they went to making monsters.
So, Ann, like that tall one right there.
Yes.
He's guarding the property in front of him.
Yeah.
And the ones behind are also
Yep.
part of that clan or whatever it is, or that group of people?
Yeah, from that clan. And
Interesting.
this group along here, there was a tsunami at one point that came in and hit the back of those and knocked them down. And this is the only group that I was told that were set back up. And that's why they moved one off by itself, because they knew that people would be coming and looking at all this.
What was the main diet there?
Yeah, fish, a lot of fruits, a lot of fruits, eggs for breakfast. It was just luscious. You're asking me to think back to what I ate in '07. They're growing more. They have areas, at least when I was there, that was kind of shut off. They never did tell us what was going on in that area. It was about a third of the island we were not supposed to go to. And I couldn't tell whether it was military or whether it was, growing trees.
They must have to import everything, like gasoline and milk and, a lot of your basics. So it must be very expensive there.
Yeah. And there are a lot of animals on the island. The young men, at least when I was there, would get around on horseback, bareback. Hang on for a second. The guy that was our tour guide on the island also had his own band, so we got to hear a lot of music and go to evening festivals.
Did they ever get rid of the rats?
I never asked that question. I would bet not.
Other questions?
Was it all over the whole island? Because I never read about that.
Would you repeat that, please, for the people in the back?
So there was a large fire on the island, and a lot of the moas are now black, and they're trying to get them cleaned up and back to normal. But it was it covered most of the island, I believe.
So mainly it was a grass fire, would you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing I have, just to add to your stories, they would take the bones of their ancestors and make fish hooks out of them.
Mm-hmm.
It helped them, they believe their ancestors stayed with them when they were out fishing.
And I think I have one of those buried in my jewelry box somewhere. I'd forgotten about that.
Was Spanish the main language spoken, or was there a different dialect they had?
They had their own dialect, and the professor that we worked with really started putting it together based on drinking songs, because nobody knew it exactly. So he put a lot of it together. And I don't have a date on this. A priest was sent over to bring religion to the island, and he refused to speak their language and learn their language. And so they really started going Spanish. So right now the current natives aren't that fluent in Spanish.
Is that because of the priest?
Yes. They do decorate their, where they bury their folks now. And we'll take the rectangle and put rocks around it and decorate it and have little party type stuff inside of it to celebrate the person's life. So the cemeteries are fun to walk through.
Anything else? Thank you very much, Anne.
Thanks. I'll leave this out.